But who's making money on the prison contracts, right?
Oh, we know
right?
that the California Prison Guards Union
right.
is very powerful in California and makes
exactly.
a ton of money. In fact, the highest paid state employee a couple of years ago, I think the year was 2007, I'm not certain,
yeah.
but was who made over more than the governor's salary, over $200,000, was a prison guard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we learned all at the same time that was exposed. We learned that prison guards many make well over $100,000 a year with overtime.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have a situation where prison guards are earning double and triple, quadruple the salaries of our teachers.
Exactly.
It makes no sense.
Well, and the other thing about these poverty courts, because they're a big trend, they come out of the whole Giuliani model of what I see as let's create low-level ways in which community members can actually be funneled into the prison industrial complex. So the way I've called my article is bringing the prison industrial complex to a neighborhood near you, right? So I mean, it's very clear, right?
Really,
that's what their design is, and the prove up of that, the litmus test, is if you go in. We had one of our folks go undercover as a client. If you go in to get help, they give you a shelter bed, right? That there isn't even necessarily a bed for, I might add. But you could have gotten the same service from the places that closed that were actually providing real service provision.
Exactly, and they set aside shelter beds, which makes it harder for people who aren't being funneled into the system to get them.
Thank you.
Right, and let's talk about we have only about 2 minutes left, so I really need to get you to talk about just how bad it's gotten since this dramatic downturn in the economy and high unemployment. Unemployment in California is now about 10%, and we know that it's about triple that in reality, if not more. So talk a little bit about how bad it is.
I mean, so a lot of this is anecdotal, which doesn't mean it's not true. But the government has very much an interest in not keeping track of how bad things get for poor people.
Right.
But so things we do know, the wait list to get into a family shelter. If you're a family without housing, to get into a shelter, the wait list has doubled in length. So it takes months to get into a shelter.
Into a shelter.
Into a shelter bed.
Oh. And of course, what are the waiting lists now for public housing? Is that just dead in the water?
Yeah.
I figured.
Well, it's mostly owned by private corporations who have their own sort of form of criminalized housing provision. So if you have your kids outside actually playing in the common area, you get evicted. If you have a family member who's even vaguely related and possibly a drug charge, you get evicted. And then on the other hand, they're trying to actually close the real quote-unquote public housing at a clip. And so that they can start this private and non-private sort of mixed housing, which really is code for we don't let a lot of poor folk get in here, right?
Right,
so,
of course.
They
tear down the projects.
Exactly.
Then they have the developers come in with private housing, and they reserve to pacify the tenants that they pushed out. They claim that they're going to reserve a certain number of the units for. That are affordable, but affordable for whom? To whom?
Exactly.
And for a limited number of years.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, we only have a minute left, so I just want you to say a last word or two.
I'd like to end with my poem. It was a little bit of a poem.
Very briefly.
Okay. This poem is in honor of homeless mothers and poor mothers, low-wage mothers and no-wage mothers, welfare mothers and 3 job-working mothers, migrante mothers and incarcerated mothers. In other words, this poem is in honor of INS with, CPS with, and most of all, system messed with mothers.
All right. Thank you, Tiny.
That's for the welfare queen, small W, capital Q.
Okay, and Bob?
Yeah, none of us are here to complain. We're here to resist. And you need to get involved in your community and resist with us. If your community is a homeless community, the Streetsheet's got some guidelines for ways you can get involved. Poor Magazine Online also has ways you can get involved. If your community is another community, there are ways to get out there and resist a system which is oppressing us all.
All right. And so Streetsheet and your book?
Yeah, and www.poormagazine.org. And also, like Bob said, if you're not in the Bay Area and you're checking this out, this is happening everywhere.
That's right.
So deconstruct your ideas of what cleanliness is in your city, and that it doesn't mean the lack of human beings and people and things. That we actually need to come together to thrive in this
Absolutely.
planet.
Power to the people. Thank you, Bob and Tiny.
Thanks,
and thank you, Stephen Leader, for board opping. Thank Tiburcio for being such a good boy. And thank you. And see, we got you on TV. There you go. Power to the children. And thank you all for tuning in to Freedom is a Constant Struggle. I'm your host, Kilu Nyasha. What's the call? Free 'em all. So tune in next week. We'll be back here on SF Live with Freedom is a